Well, that's still Adele, very quiet in the background, because you may see from the date when this is posted that this is about the end of June 2020. So I'm now going back to March 2020 when I actually did this, and I'm going to show you my attempt, not attempt, it was successful, how I went about single-handedly as an older person with arthritis, moving a lathe from one place to another so that I could set it up in a nicer situation, ready for me to start cleaning it down and doing some light refurbishment, because I'm hoping it doesn't need heavy refurbishment. But there we go. So enjoy this video of me finding out how to move a lathe. Now, single-handed during a lockdown, moving a lathe presents the odd little problem. And I've got a ramp down there. Now, I don't want to drop the lathe onto the floor because that means lifting it further at the other end. So I can always put a hoist in. So I'm trying to move it on the workmate. But look, it's a plank. That's not very stable. It's going to wobble and fall off that, especially if it's on top of something. So this is the thing. Look, we know about levers and fulcrums. There's the mass from an old dinghy up there. And that pivot point is going to be very close to the loading point. So I'm hoping that just the weight of the mass without any other weights on the opposite end of it will be enough to support the weight of the lathe. Time will tell. I was just getting nervous at the other end of the shed, and so I've hung a counterbalance weight onto the end of the mast that I'm using as an anchor point for my hoist. So the hoist is hanging from the opposite end of this mast, and this is quite a heavy wooden ladder. I've just tie wrapped it together in the middle so it doesn't fall apart, providing a bit of extra weight on the end of the mast.
I suppose the issue is if Jim isn't being furloughed, Louise, what does he ask his boss to ensure that he's safe at work?
I'm not sure where I got to with that last video, but anyway, here's the lathe strapped onto my little pallet truck with a lorry strap, with a piece of wood over the lathe bed to protect it from the metal buckle, and a couple of blocks of wood there just to stop it crushing onto the foot of it. Managed to drag it into this other shed, and I'm now just looking at putting something up there in order to anchor a hoist to. So I'm going to strap these two beams together, and also this one isn't continuous, it's just a packing piece, so I'm going to strap these two together just to give some extra support up there, and if that's not strong enough I can double up on there across the middle with something, just give it some extra strength. Let's see how I get on. Okay, not sure you can see it, but that's these two beams strapped together and a slot cut with the saw. Those two beams strapped together. I don't know whether to put another strap just the other side of where that is now. It feels a lot stronger, and obviously when I swing on this beam that one moves as well, so they are strapped together. I'll try it at that. Well, just in case we thought, this bit of metal here. So this is scrap that's come off a van refurbishment company. and it's called something like Quick Lock, and it's screwed to the side of vans to allow them to put straps and rails in to hold the load. Right, that's what that's for. This is something else, and I can't remember its name. Constructional steel for hanging air conditioning from rafters of buildings. And so if I put that, rest that in the top of there, then that'll provide some extra strength in that beam. I'll get it in there in a minute before it lands on my head. Okay, so the lathe has been slung. Use the lorry strap, well, no, a ratchet strap. I've lifted lathes 2 or 3 times, and if I'm putting a sling round, I always drop a couple of bolts through the holes there. I'm worried it might slip that way. And if you drop some bolts through the mounting holes, there's a nut on one of them, there isn't a nut on the other one. I couldn't get to it. I could put a nut on now, I suppose, before I lift it any further. That's the ratchet strap and the ratchet hoist. Yep, wherever we were, I was saying just that's the trailer ratchet strap, the ratchet hoist, and some string around my metal bar, which is reinforced with something on a beam there, strapped to the beam above it, a beam there strapped to the beam above it, and so fortunately I've spanned 2 beams across the garage, but I'm fortunate in having a double beam at this point. There isn't everywhere else. There's a double beam there, but that gives me a bit of extra security. At that point there's not really a double beam, there's the remnants of the garage door frame which I've screwed up into the short piece of wood that was just used as a spacer. Anyway, nothing seems to be creaking up there, all seems to be holding nice and tight. The old leg of a trainer, makes useful rag, is stopping the rope from fraying on the rather sharp edges of that metal. That's just wrapped around. But I don't think of everything. I made a stupid mistake before, which you will see. If you've watched the previous video, you'll see my stupid mistake. I hope I haven't caused any damage with that, and I've been fortunate so far. As far as I know, no damage has been caused. Got some sawdust. Sawdust isn't good for lathes, from the sawing of the beam. Just remember, the last lathe I lifted didn't have the motor bracket on, a motor, or this on. Of course that strap's not going to slip over the end of the headstock in that position. No way. Now I've got to work out how I swing it onto the lathe stand, onto the drip tray. That could be fun, because I'm not going to be able to slide. It's not on runners, so I can't slide the top end along like with a gantry. What I might have to do is lower it onto the workmate, or take the weight on the workmate, slide that across and then hoist again. I think that's what I'll do. I hope I'm not speaking too soon, but I think I'm nearly there. So I've managed to slide that end back that way, and this end back a bit to take the lifting point higher, and I've just managed to swing that over enough so I could drop the light end onto the drip tray and then push a piece of 2B1 or whatever it is underneath to trap it as it was swung over, just to take the weight. So if I pulled this out, it would obviously swing back towards me because the hoist is at an angle, but I managed to just push that under, which just trapped it on top of the drip tray. The drip tray's been brought off by the lathe once. I mean, it got on and it just swung back and just pulled the drip tray off the top. But now it seems to be on. Let's see if I can lower it onto the drip tray and stand. You're missing all the fun. In order to release the tension on this, you have to push it up a pole. You know how it works. You got to pull it up, flick a catch, flick one ratchet to release another ratchet, and in lifting it up it just brought everything off swinging. Anyway, I've pushed it back on and managed to release it. I think the felt pads which I put around the holes, I've no idea, but I saw some felt, very oily felt pads stuck to it. I've just attached them to the stand with Pritt stick, and I'm just hoping that they haven't moved. I'll have a quick look before I let the full weight of the lathe down onto the stand. There we go. Let me tell you why I like this lathe and why I've hung on to it. I must admit, it's that collector sensation that some people get. I bought this lathe a long time ago. I'm going to guess at 30 years, but I could work it out. I bought it from the widow of the guy who bought it new from Myford, whether that was the 50s. The bed number will tell, and I do have the serial number. I did find out at one point. I'm not sure if we can. No, it might be on the end. I don't know. I've done all that at one point. And so it's original. It had light use by the original owner, who had it from new, and it's had virtually no use from me. It's just been sprayed with oil and stored. So it's been in storage for nearly 30 years, or 30 years. I might find that out for you. But the great thing about it is that I got it as a complete, genuine Myford lathe, no modifications, no changes, and I just have brought it here. I did the stupid thing of putting a sling around the spindle. The spindle is still moving quite freely without play. I never properly set it up because it came, and as you can see by the switch, which is mounted to the lathe itself, as a self-contained lathe to put onto your own stand, and it was on a wooden cabinet, strong wooden cabinet, and I got that at the same time. That's how the guy had mounted it, and that's how he had been using it. And so now I've acquired this Myford stand, which came with that lathe, which is on a different stand. And what I thought was, wouldn't it be nice if I put the one lathe that I know the heritage of, the provenance, onto an original Myford stand, and then I had, amongst all my various bits and bobs and collection of things, at least one honest to goodness, genuine Myford lathe, ML7, and there it would be. It would be nice. I have drilled out a quick change tool post to fit this. I was surprised that if you buy from RGD a quick change tool post, that the hole through the tool post doesn't fit. Anyway, there we go. My Myford. I can tell you a bit more about it at some point, but now I've got it into my garage with its newly lined wall, where I've got my other bits and pieces, and this is the one place that I'm going to attempt to keep dry and free of humidity, so that the tools don't corrode as they have done in other places. So I don't know. There we go. I'm just telling you my feelings. There we go. I've not done anything. I even bought, and they're still in the box, some of those sight glasses for the oilers, but that's the ones that came with the lathe on there. Everything, and as it was sent from the factory. And I think the bed's in reasonable condition as well. That we'll see. I've got to clean it up. So it's a project now to get it going properly.